Okay, I think we look good for now. If there's anyone that trickles in, good news, we'll do like a touch base. We'll kind of go around, check in, introduce yourself and some of your background here at the Creative Sober. Marissa's new to the group, and she's also going to be leading us today in her practice. And so it's a real honor and treat to have her here. She's shared with me, she's pretty excited. She's excited about the community and what it all represents and what we've been doing. So if someone wants to start, please take the talking stick.
I will start since I'm seeing nobody else on mute. My name is Judy. I've been in the, let's say, recovery spaces for about 3.5 years. I discovered the Creative Sober on Instagram, and it has been a wonderful place to come and be seen and be vulnerable and open about the struggles that we all face, in the recovery spaces. And as somebody who's creative, I grew up with that whole side of me getting pushed away. And so it's kind of fun to explore that as a person who's working on consciousness, and staying like aware and awake more often than not. It's a journey for sure. So anyway, I'm glad to be here.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you. I'm Kathy. I live in the Bay Area of California, and I've been with Creative Sober for a year or so. I don't know. Time fly by so fast. Been sober for a couple of years. The Creative Sober is definitely a great space to be supported and support each other, and just be in a space where there's like-mindedness, but also we each have our own personality and uniqueness as well. So it's nice to be able to be in an area, in a community that is accepting and understands the journeys. So welcome, Marissa.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Betty. I'm dialing in from Brooklyn, New York. I tested positive for COVID yesterday, so I'm just here trying to hold space, and I've been with the Creative Sober for 2 years. And yeah, I echo everything that everybody else said. It's a beautiful space for us to celebrate our creativity and our recovery together. And yeah, it's, another part of my soul family that I get to connect with. And I'm really grateful that you're here, Marissa, and sharing your spirituality with us. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Should I check in even though I'm going to be talking a lot today?
Yes, please.
Okay. I'm Marisa. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for sharing this beautiful space with me. I think I found you in Creative Sobers on Instagram over a year ago. And it's just been this kind of like interest back and forth. And I feel like we just kind of came together. I just signed up for the membership. And so yeah, I've been in recovery for 15 years. I celebrated my 15-year birthday yesterday.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So this is such a fun way to celebrate. I am so excited. The divine timing is so wonderful. And my view of recovery has expanded greatly from where it began. So I love all sober communities and being a musician and a writer and all that. Like, this is such a sweet space. So I'm so grateful and excited for today. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's a real honor. And I think our paths crossed when the Creative Sober idea came to, and was if you will, a God shack or a download of inspiration that I got in my journey. And, the space that it is today continues to grow in a way that the community members need it to. It's a container that I have the honor of providing, but on a soul level, I don't own it. It's the members who create the space and the place where we can be our unique selves and be on different versions or different paths of sobriety, whatever that looks like for you. And what has come up, for me, especially 3.5 years sober now, spirituality has always been the vehicle for navigating my sobriety. And I see more of that conversation coming up, especially amongst creatives and artists, that is a conduit that we co-create and exist. So spirituality makes sense in this particular space. And so it's a real honor to have you, Marisa.
Thank you.
Yeah. So before we go into your session, Marissa's going to do grounding with us so that we can just be in that space for us to lead us in this meeting.
All right, wonderful. Thank you. So we'll just go ahead and close our eyes down. And just getting comfortable in your seat, wherever you are. Take a really big deep breath in. And as you exhale, imagine letting go of everything that came before this moment. So all it took to get here. And we'll do that one more time. Deep breath in. Letting everything go. And on this next breath, deeply breathing in. When you exhale, imagine releasing yourself from anything that is to come after. Whatever is on your to-do list today, we just let it go. And on this next breath in, bringing yourself right into the present, right into exactly where you are. And on your next exhale, imagine sending a root from the base of your spine deep down into the center of the earth. Really visualizing that root through the soil. And I like to imagine seeing all of these roots from ancient trees all over the world, sending their root down to meet mine. This acknowledgement of our interconnectedness with nature, with something bigger than ourselves. And just allow yourself to lock into those roots, to feel held and supported. And just continuing to take breaths of surrender. Really feeling into your physical body, your energy body. Noticing how you might be vibrating this morning. We do this from a place of compassion and observation. And then just continuing to breathe that surrender. And maybe there's something top of mind or top of heart, something that's been taking up space. And you can imagine sending it down, all the way down that root. Allowing the energy of the earth to hold it. And just taking a minute to maybe place one hand in the center of your chest, on your heart. And just taking a moment of gratitude for yourself exactly as you are today. In this time and space you have taken to receive. And we honor this as a safe and sacred space created with love and light, place for us to practice unconditional love for ourselves and each other. And we take one last breath in. Exhale, letting go. And opening the eyes when we're ready. So, Mai, did you want me just to start?
Yeah, yes, please.
Okay, wonderful. So thank you again for having me. And I know that we did a little check-in already, but what I would love to do, especially since we have a small group, we're going to have a little more time to connect. And I would love to just hear from each of you, either a word or a sentence about what called you here today. When you saw the event and the 4 agreements, what kind of pulled at your heartstrings? What might you be hoping to receive, or where you might be at with spirituality or practice? Just anything that feels top of heart for you. I'd love to kind of hear where you are. So we'll just take a few minutes to do that. And I might just call on, is it okay if I just call on people? Okay. Why don't we start with you, Judy?
Thank you, Marisa. That was a wonderful grounding and presencing exercise. Thank you. I am a Course in Miracles student, and my word for this year is trust. So I get to begin trusting more of my spiritual practice and more of feeling into like the choices that I want to make for my business, my health coaching business, and just kind of like just trusting more.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Betty?
Wow, Judy, I don't think I knew that you were a Course in Miracles student, did I? If I did, I spaced it out. It's wonderful. Me too. Yeah, surrender. I think that that's like always a great theme for my life, just like in this constant state of acceptance and surrender.
Thank you. And Kathy?
I think for me, spirituality has always been like this on and off relationship where I'll go through periods of like going to like Center for Spiritual Living and going every weekly and doing classes, and then that'll somehow shift to not doing anything. So I think throughout the years, I haven't really nailed down a spiritual practice per se. And I think that's the one piece that's missing out of all of the things that I've brought together as far as tools to support myself in those relationships that I'm in. So when I saw this, I was definitely intrigued to find out what it was about. I'm very familiar with the 4 agreements and have read it years and years ago. So, and I've also been part of the Course in Miracles community, not dedicated necessarily or, a daily practice, but I'm definitely familiar with that course as well. So, I'm just looking to be open and receive whatever comes in for today. And maybe it'll be that step that I need to continue down, a spiritual journey.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kathy. And May?
What draws me here and towards your teaching is, I guess I can describe myself as a seeker. So I very similar to Kathy, spirituality has always been present in my life, but as a continuous practice of a certain type or approach, I haven't really landed on one either. And for me, finding the voice of the universe or God, if you will. I heard that within me, and I haven't necessarily put a name to it or what it is. I mean, higher power is the best way I can describe it. And I know that for me, because there is a lot of versions of what spirituality is in that path, the chatter can get really loud. And so when I look at the 4 agreements, what attracts me to that is the simplicity of it. So it brings me peace to look at these principles of approaching life, and it can incorporate in all areas to at least my life path and journey that can feel overcomplicated sometimes. So the 4 agreements is definitely has been calling to me for sure.
Wonderful. Thank you. Oh, thank you everyone for sharing where you are this morning and what calls you. It's amazing how similar we all can be, even though we can be so different in our experiences and what even brought us to our sobriety or this point. And this medicine of the 4 agreements, and I've been like deeply working inside of the shamanic path for about 7 years. And to me, shamanism is an openness to all. Oh, I'm sorry if that's me. Hold on. I think my email's on. Let me take that off. It is an openness to all paths. And it's also really a journey into finding the path within yourself instead of a path that already exists. And what I have found is that if I look at all different paths of spirituality, so many of them contain the same pieces and parts. And a lot of times it's what man has done to the path, what beliefs and agreements and rules and regulations they've put on these paths that taint the actual connection to our divinity. And today I'm going to share just from the heart my experience and what led me to this place. Because what I am most passionate about is teaching people to go within, to discover their relationship to spirit, divine, source, God, King Triton from the Little Mermaid. Like it all exists, like however we want to see a higher power of spirit. But we are divine and we are part of spirit. And this language that I actually learned from the Center of Spiritual Living was that spirit is in me, of me, as me. And that there is this part of me that is divinely connected, and this soul part of me, this life force that became wounded by the dream of the planet. And that is what Don Miguel Ruiz teaches, is this wounding that happens when we start making agreements with other wounded people in the world. And so what my path has been over the last 7 years is helping other people connect to that part of themselves and helping them find their path. And I do that through this shamanic visioning meditation, which are these deeply guided meditations of going within to look at beliefs, agreements, relationships, and teaching other people how to go on those journeys. Because I believe we're all shamans. I believe we're all gifted and powerful healers. And we're deeply connected to one another and the earth. And it's just about that awakening. It's about really awakening to those gifts and connections that we have. So my hope for you today, what I hope to share with you is just a little bit of my experience and some strength and hope, and then also take you in on a meditation and bring you inside of that practice. And I always tell people that, take what you want from me and leave what is not in alignment, and that I'm not here to tell you where to go or what to do or what to believe, but just to be maybe a mirror for some of the pieces that there might be something that you might need that I can share. So my journey starts, kind of pre-sobriety, because I don't know if many of you had this experience, but I had, my alcoholism, which I have chosen to believe. I do believe that alcoholism is a disease. For me, alcoholism and addiction, I've seen it in my family run along this line. And, but I also think it is a disease of the spirit. And a lot of the reason why people drink and use is actually just because of the human experience. So I like to say, I'm a human being recovering from I'm a spiritual being recovering from the human experience. Like, it's more than just being an alcoholic. But I was raised, when I got clean and when I decided to get sober, it was in a rehab, and I was in 12-step program. And that is a program for recovery. So I'm going to back up a little bit, but I always felt different. I always felt really confused by the way people moved through the world. I was very, very sensitive. I took things really personally. I really felt this. It was very easy for me to feel wounded. And I had a very interesting experience with spirituality, because my mom was raised in this, basically like a cult, in this AC church, and it was very rigid. And our purpose, for me, identify as a woman, like a woman's purpose was to be of service to God and her husband. So my body was not mine. And I started with this beautiful relationship to Jesus in like picture books about this God that loved me and loved me unconditionally. And I was this divine little being, and I was going to be in heaven on streets of gold. And it was this loving, loving relationship. And I remember feeling that, like, yes, I know there's more than this. Yes, there has to be spirit. Like, I could feel this relationship. And this was like very young, right? Probably like maybe between like 6 and 10, 11. And then this really frightening thing happened for me as I was introduced to youth group, and I was introduced to another God, and I was introduced to a vengeful God. And it was a God that needed me to do all of these things very specifically if I were to be loved, because I was no longer a child of God. I was the daughter of Eve, this sinful being. And when you're domesticated inside of any type of religion or belief system, it is so challenging for you to question that system, especially when it happens when you're younger. So I feel like so many of us have had some experience, whether it's being with parents that were atheists and didn't believe in anything, or being Catholic or Christian or Buddhist, like there's so, right? We all have been introduced maybe to something. And my introduction was so overwhelming and so painful because it never felt in alignment. I didn't believe in a God that would send other people to hell just because they didn't believe in him. Like, and again, when I talk about this, I'm not putting down Christianity. These are the stories that I created based on my experience and my domestication, right? I know a lot of people that thrive in their practice, and that's beautiful. But for me, that wasn't the path for me, but it was the only one I was given. So I didn't know that there was another way. I could feel inside of my body that there had to be something different, but I wasn't able to give myself permission because I would go to hell. It was too scary. So I went from being in this, like at a very young age, of feeling I'm not good enough as I am. And what I know to be true, you were talking, Judy, about trust. I could not trust myself because I was tainted. I was a sinner. I could not trust myself. And this led to so much insecurity and so much self-hate. And I've always been a seer. I can see things and vision and people. And at the time, I didn't realize that was like a gift. And so it would overactivate my mind. And so I I kind of talk about like in Harry Potter, like if they don't know how to use the magic wand, like everything is chaos. And so for me, I would make a lot of assumptions, like I was making assumptions and gathering information all the time. And it was always really fear-based because I was trying to protect myself, because I was trying to be perfect, to be loved, to be seen, because I already felt so not good enough and so like pointless. And so I was very it's not a surprise that when I found drugs and alcohol, it helped me at least feel comfortable and safe enough to like keep going. Because I thought about killing myself constantly because it was so exhausting. My mind, in the Four Agreements, Don Miguel calls it the mitote. It's called the cacophony of voices. And my mind was filled with a cacophony of voices because I was raised with this very strict book of law. And this is what the work is. Don Miguel talks about how all of our beliefs and agreements, we basically create this book of law. And just like our parents domesticate ourselves, when we do something good, they reward us. And when they do something bad or that was wrong, then they punish us. And they punish and reward us until we can do it ourselves, right? Until we can start punishing and rewarding ourselves. Well, my book of law was filled with so many beliefs and agreements. And I was punishing and rewarding myself based on that book, but it was so painful because I didn't actually agree. And so I'd have this voice of the judge and the victim constantly trying to enforce this book. And I was in so much pain because there was a part of me that was connected to my soul self, that was connected to my divine self, that knew that that wasn't real. Like, why did I take this one person, my fourth grade teacher, who I still remember her name, who told me I was stupid, and I made an agreement with her, and now I tell myself I'm stupid all the time. Like, why do I do that? And why do I believe it? And that was the hard part for me because I wanted to love myself the way I could love other people. I wanted to have grace and patience. And I couldn't because that book was so strong and I believed everything. I believed everything everyone told me about myself to be true. My bucked teeth, my loud voice, you talk too much, you take up too much space, whatever it was. And then I would try to navigate my life trying not to be who I was. And I didn't have any tools about going inside at all. Everything was outside of me. And this way of thinking extended into my sobriety. So I spent my 24th birthday in rehab. I was very young. And then I was domesticated with the program of AA, which I went to an AA meeting last night. I'm very expansive and open to all things because I don't make agreements with everything that might harm me. And my relationship with AA changed because AA was another program. It was another program telling me I was an alcoholic. So now I went from being the unworthy daughter of Eve to being an alcoholic. And now I got to do all these other things to be better. Now that's just the way my mind saw it. That's not necessarily what they were telling me, but that's how I saw it. And I actually didn't even realize until maybe like 12 or 13 years sober that I had taken this beautiful guiding program and I used it again as a condition for being worthy. And Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. always says, do not take the four agreements and make them four conditions. Do not re-domesticate yourself with this. This is not a belief system, or you don't have to make an agreement, right? So I spent being so young, recovery was the best thing that ever happened to me, though. I learned it helped me lean into my wounding and why I drank and why I used. But part of being in a 12-step program is having a higher power. And I really struggled because I kind of used Jesus in the Bible when I first got sober because I was so desperate, but I'd go to church and I feel like I was burning. Don't call me a sinner. Like whatever divine being is out there loves me. I just felt like I was burning every time I was in there. And And then I started over my sobriety years was like, okay, I'm going to try Buddhism, and I'm going to like try Native American spirituality, and I'm going to try all these things, all these paths. And I just could not connect to it. And I still was feeling the domestication from this religion that told me I was going to go to hell. So it was really blocking me from giving myself permission to create a path to spirit that's authentic to me, because I wasn't allowed to do that. And then the most beautiful thing happened. My brother came out as gay. And it was this moment where I knew without a shadow of a doubt that whatever divine being created my brother loved him, and he was exactly how he was supposed to be. And it was the one thing that gave me, I get really emotional about it, but it was the one thing that gave me this total permission to let that entire domesticated system that I had had around this vengeful God go. And I remember us sitting in my car and I just yelled out loud. I said, I cannot follow anyone that does not love everyone exactly as they are. And I was like, so I'm sorry. So you can send me to hell because I would rather go to hell. Like I made this proclamation, but it was like his bravery and courage of being himself and sharing it with a family of faith. And to see my mother say, well, I love you, and see her change her relationship to her belief system because she knew my brother was perfect exactly as he was. So that was this like amazing cracking open of permission. But it did take me many years to find what worked for me because I was still looking outside. So I was about 6 years sober. And those voices I was telling you about. So I've done all this work in sobriety, right? Like I've become a more kinder person, a gentler person, a loving person. I'm of service to people. I'm helping other people in recovery. I'm learning to like myself. But I'm still plagued by this mitote. I'm still plagued by disaster mind. And I was so exhausted because I would really rather be dead than even drink. And I don't know if anyone's been there in their sobriety where they're like, well, I know that the drugs and alcohol are going to work. And that little voice comes in that's like, and that's something that I struggled with for a very long time, was this voice that would tell me to kill myself. And so to be sober for that long and to have a life on the outside that, like, I started the band I always wanted to start. I was working a job where I was finally financially secure. Like, it looked like maybe I was receiving the fruits of sobriety, but my internal world was still so painful. And I don't believe anything happens by accident, but I had another one of those moments where I was in my room and I was crying and I just said out loud, like, I need you. Like, if I'm supposed to have a relationship with you, divine being, like, I need you to help me because I am at the end of my rope. And I went into my living, and this is what's so wild, is I went in my living room and I had this bookshelf that I'd been carrying all these books around for years, like pre-sobriety. And I wasn't really reading any of them, but I just would always set them up. And so I went to my bookshelf. I'm like, I wonder if I have anything in here. And sure enough, I had the 4 Agreements. And what's wild is that I remembered, I had totally forgotten, I had read that book super wasted, like when I was like 22. And I remember one night I was super drunk and I went home and I was wanting to kill myself. And I read that book and I had this profound experience with it. And I was like, this book could change my entire life. Like, it was this wild experience. And then the next day I woke up, and of course, that's absolutely not what I wanted to do. I wanted to keep drinking. So it was weird. It was like, how could you have the most profound experience with a book, an awakening, and then just, but I wasn't ready. So I remembered my awakening though. Like, maybe that was part of this awakening, right? Like, I remembered what I had and I was like, oh, I remember this book. So I sat down, I laid in my bed that weekend and I read that book from start to finish in one day, because it's small. But I tell people it felt as if the earth cracked open, the sky cracked open, and I could suddenly see everything that I felt in my heart my entire life. that everything I believed about myself and the world was not, it was that my parents, my teachers, everybody put their pair of glasses on me, and that's how I was seeing the world. And I was not seeing the world from a place of my divine self. I was not. I was seeing the world from the dream of the planet, and I wanted to be free because I couldn't handle the shape shifting myself for everybody and everything. And it was about maybe only a week after I read that book that I quit my job, and I started making all these choices for myself. And I dove deep into the 4 agreements as a practice, because what I realized when I read the book is this isn't just a super fun little book that you can read and it's a great idea. And I don't mean to say that in a way that sounds judgmental, but like most time we read books and we're like, this is awesome, like, cool, okay, but like, how do I not take things personally? It's really hard not to take things personally. And the whole process, I realized, started with rewriting my book of law. And that I had all these beliefs and agreements that I would judge and victimize myself with. And that until I rewrote that book, till I became clear on what I believed to be true about myself and the world around me, then it was going to be really hard for me not to take things personally. And it was going to be really hard for me to be impeccable with my word. And that the practice of being impeccable is a practice. And I love Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. because he shows up to his events a lot of the times, and he'll get on stage and he goes, and I don't think he minds if I do his accent, by the way. I think he would think it's funny because I'm pretty sure maybe he's heard me say this before, but he goes, I am Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. and I don't take anything personally. And like, he's like, I always do my best. And he just says all the 4 agreements. And he's like, because I'm Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. And the first time I saw him, it was going to be one of my questions to him. Because when I was first in the work, I was like, oh, I'm going to be so free. I'm never going to do any of those things. I am going to never take anything personally. I'm always like, yes. And then when I saw him and he did that, I was like, oh man, you take things personally still? Like, I thought I could be free from the human experience completely, you know? And it was this beautiful reminder of like, it's a practice. It is an intention. And it is really this beautiful act of not only self-love, but love for other people, because you're no longer taking someone else and imprinting your experience onto them. And the freedom from not suffering by not taking things personally, because you know that that person has a whole book of law and a whole story of wounding and trauma that has led them to this place where they're telling my brother that he's not going to go to heaven because he's gay. And instead of hating that person, instead of being filled with resentment and anger, instead of letting it affect my container, I can have some type of empathy and understanding while holding boundaries, right? Because boundaries are really important. And there isn't like a chapter on it in the book, which I kind of wish there was, because boundaries is really important, you know? And so, but it helped me not be so affected by everyone. It helped me to be less concerned and consumed about affirmation from other people. And so the biggest part about that book, I think the most powerful part, are the stories that happen before he actually gets into the 4 agreements. It's the part about understanding sorry, my dog. The story, she gets really riled up when we're doing spiritual stuff. I feel like she can feel the feel the spirits coming, but it's this beautiful acknowledgement. Like, if there's anything I would love to leave you with today, is this questioning and really like asking yourself, like, do I have a book of law that I use to judge and victimize myself? And have I made agreements? Because even though the 4 agreements here are 4 agreements that we can agree to, like, I'm always going to try to do my best. I'm going to be impeccable with my word. But what he's really saying too in this tiny book is that you have a whole book of agreements that are hurting you and harming you. And I felt like he was giving me permission to see what those were, to look into what those were, and to let them go. And what he doesn't talk about in his book, but how I ended up doing this work of unlearning, was through, which I didn't know at the time, it was shamanic meditation. So this is what's so interesting, is I didn't really know what I was doing. Heather Ashmara is one of Don Miguel Ruiz's apprentices, and she wrote this book called The Toltec Path of Transformation, which I absolutely recommend reading. I think it might be called Big Freedom now. But she talks about connecting to the elements of air, fire, water, and earth, and how we can transform ourselves through air. Air is clear perception, so you get really clear, and fire is cleansing and clearing, and you burn, and water is being in the flow of life. So there's this beautiful practice that she can take us through. But one of the things she asked was, I want you to close your eyes and call on a guide. Now, I had never done that before, because that would have been like a way, like a no-no, right? And I closed my eyes and I was like, okay. And I just said, air guide, please come to me. And I suddenly saw this, like, I can't explain. It was like I was there. It was like probably what maybe putting virtual reality glasses on, like what that looks like for someone. It was that real. It is that real for me. Like, I closed my eyes. I could feel my feet in the soil. I could see the trees. I could see this like light, this sparkle, this life that moved through every single branch and every single trunk. I could feel the air on my skin. I was taken to this sacred forest that now I've been to thousands of times. It never changes. And my grandmother came. And it was her. I mean, it was my grandmother. And she was the first guide that met me. And it had been about a year since she'd passed away. And I was very close with her. And she was the first guide that I had. And I realized that I could go to the other realm inside my heart. I could close my eyes and go to this space, and I could ask questions, and I could ask for visions, and I could see things. I could go in and say, show me where I made my agreement that I was stupid, and how I evidence gathered that agreement. Show me my relationship to that agreement. I would see my agreements as entities, as clouds of smoke, or my fourth grade teacher holding me hostage. Like I was having these real experiences with these agreements. So I could actually shift them and transform them. And I was introduced to my higher self, which I feel like is that inner fire that we're born with before we have knowledge, that just thrives and lives, right? Our inner fire. And I was introduced to that part of me. And I was told, like, take a deep breath in and exhale and send your spirit outside of yourself so you can see her. And she was like really tall and really fierce and strong, but compassionate and loving. And like, I saw in vision. And what happens to the mind is that your mind, it doesn't know what's real or not. And what is real or not? Because when you have an experience, like a dream, have you ever had a dream and it's really bad and you wake up the next day and you can feel the whole thing? And you're like, that was so real. It was real. It was like a real experience. Just because it happened in another realm, like what I started to tell myself was real or not started to change. Because my relationship with my grandmother today is very real. The relationships my clients have with their loved ones who've passed or their pets that have passed are very real. We choose what is real. We choose what we want to believe. And we create a dream and a reality that we want. We don't need permission from the dream of the planet to believe in helping spirits or guides. You also don't have to. It's okay. But I believe that my guides are very real and my helping spirit animals are real. And I believe when I go into this place inside of my heart that what I see is real. And so what happened was I was unlearning and rewriting my book of law inside of this place. I was bringing my beliefs and my agreements there. I was asking my true self, what do you believe about what it means to be smart? And what kept happening is my true self just wanted to love me exactly as I was. Like, it doesn't matter. Who cares? What was smart anyway? Like, Marisa, stop telling people you're emotionally intelligent, but you're not intelligent. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just, and I started looking up words in the dictionary that I'd used against myself for years. And I love doing this with clients because they'll have a belief about something. I'll be like, let's just see what that word even means. Okay. Cause like we say it millions of times, but we've never even looked it up, you know? And I just started to find so much freedom from going within. And what I realized is that I was finding my spiritual practice and my relationship to spirit inside of me through meditation. And that expanded. I love oracle cards and tarot cards, and I love the moon and ritual, and I love earth, and I love setting up. This is my little altar. I love setting up altars everywhere. I was going to make my spiritual practice everything and outside of me too, that I didn't have to. I wanted to be able to practice this meditation practice of going within when I was at the office and I needed to go in the bathroom and call in a guide, or if I couldn't close my eyes, but I could see my wolf at my feet, or I could change my energy body or protect myself from that person pulling on my energy body. The 4 agreements for me was much more than just these 4 practices. It led me on what I found out later I was doing with shamanic meditation, which I always thought you had to be like, maybe, I don't know, some older, ancient, more important, right? Like putting importance, or like my lineage, like I'm Italian, like, I don't know, they're Italian shamans, like, but what I didn't realize until that moment was, oh no, we all have this, because this is we all have access to ourselves. And we all have access to asking, like, what do I want? How do I want my practice to look? I don't want it to be rigid. Okay, great. Then it's not rigid. I want to be able to stare at a plant for 5 minutes and consider that a meditation. Great. That's a plant meditation or a walking meditation. I want to go to church. Awesome. I want to get to know Jesus. Great. Like, what do you want to do? And trust your want instead of what that book of law has told you. You don't belong there. You can't be there. You're not safe there. Well, what if I can find a safe place? Or what if I can create a safe place? So then I did that. Then I created a community for people to gather and to do this work together. And then I created a shamanic recovery group for people in recovery. I like to say it's also for the orphans in recovery who don't want to say they're an alcoholic, or they don't, but they want the spiritual practice. They want to know themselves. They want to go to that place inside of themselves. And what I found when I started doing this, so what happened was I was doing these meditations on myself, and then being a part of the AA community, I have a lot of sober women that would always come to me just for advice and stuff. And I was like, you know what? I want to try this thing with you. I want to take you on a journey. Just let me know what happens. And so I realized that when I went into the other realm with them, that I could see things for them. And that's what started my practice of doing this work, is that I realized that like what I felt like my I don't believe we have one single soul's purpose personally. I think we have many, but I know that for me, it was taking people on this journey of helping them transform their book of law and creating a belief system that's authentic to them through shamanic meditation. That you are the healer, you are the shaman, and I'm going to teach you how to do this until you can do it yourself. And you can find whatever practices that work for you inside of it. And profound transformation was happening. And it was just because somebody gave someone else permission. Like I just gave you permission to listen to yourself and led you on a journey to trust, right? Which is like, we don't get that. A lot of us don't get that. So today, and thank you for letting me share for so long. There's something about everyone who teaches this stuff. I feel like Jose Ruiz is Don Miguel's son, and I apprenticed with him. And I remember the first time I did a workshop, I was like, Jose, I just want to share from the heart. And he's like, oh yeah. He's like, that's what you have to do. Just share from the heart, whereas like Heather Ashamara, she has all these papers and things. And And I just remember he gave me permission to just share from the heart. And that's what he does. And if you ever have an opportunity, there is a workshop coming up. It's free next Saturday with Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. and Jose. I love it because Jose, all he does is just share. And so I always appreciate when someone gives me the space to just share, because I do believe that it's from the sharing of others and hearing their story that it's from Don Miguel Ruiz and Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. and Jose and Heather Ash and Linda Starwolf, and me returning to these amazing teachers that have walked the path before me. It was hearing their experience of finding freedom that let me find mine. So I just want to thank you for letting me talk for so long, because sometimes I get insecure about it. Like, oh gosh, I'm still talking. But it just means so much for me to pass this to you, because my hope is that it will inspire you to give yourself permission to create your own dream. And Jose talks a lot about, that's his main message is becoming the love of our lives, becoming the love of our own lives, and creating our own dreams and our own realities, and giving ourselves permission. Because I don't want to be morbid or have this sound negative, but it's kind of a little motto that I have for myself is, I'm just going to die anyway. Like all this stress and anxiety and pain, and I'm just going to die. And I'll tell you, before we go into meditation, just to be clear, my life has not been free from suffering since I started this practice at all. I probably had the most intense last 4 years of my life. And I finally I call it the underworld. I finally got through this because I had some transformation and change that was needed, and I couldn't do it without going there. But what I found is when I'm in the underworld, when I'm in that dark place, I am fully supported by spirit and my guides and my practices and community. And it got me through it. And I'm also practicing non-attachment to this beautiful time I'm having right now, because guess what? More suffering is going to happen. And I think what's beautiful about feeling fully supported by the universe is that no matter what happens, and we need this as people who are in recovery, we need this as people who go to drugs and alcohol or food or whatever else, smoking or whatever else we might tack on or have, relationships, codependence. Like it's in our nature, I believe, to be constantly seeking outside of ourselves. And the human dream of the planet is like that now too, especially with social media. It's very hard to sit in silence on my mat in front of my altar. I'm still learning how to do that. So I always want to say that the suffering doesn't stop, the human experience doesn't stop, but our spiritual experience can be so much louder. So much louder. And all it really takes is us trusting ourselves and allowing ourselves to believe whatever is on top of our heart that we want to believe, and really giving ourselves permission. And if there are things that are blocking you from that, then we can unlearn those in many ways, either with me or with a therapist or with a friend. Like there's a book, like there's so many ways, right? So today what I would love to do is I would love to take us in to a meditation together and to just connect to our most highest self, and maybe some guides might come for you. I want to check in to make sure everyone's comfortable with that, because if someone's not comfortable or they're not feeling that they wanted to do that kind of meditation, then I would invite them to, like, it's okay to not participate. But I feel like if everyone's good with that. And then I wanted to ask if everyone had like a journal or a pen handy, because after we come out of the meditation, I'm going to have you do a little bit of writing for a few minutes. And then we're going to, if you're comfortable, whoever feels called, we'll just do a little sharing to see what you felt about the message or the meditation process. So just have that kind of handy. And so what I'll have you do is, typically I have people lie down on the floor with like a pillow, because you're closest to the earth, even if you're in a 2-story building, the closest you can get. But also sitting for meditation, unless you're really good at it, can pull you out of your body, pull you out of the vision, because your body is uncomfortable. Sometimes if you lay on a couch or a bed, it's easy to fall asleep. Just trust wherever you're at. And then I also want to invite you on this journey today to release yourself from expectation. Sometimes it's really easy for people to drop in. Sometimes people have profound experiences the first time. Sometimes people cannot, for the life of them, stay, or they're so excited that they're not trusting what they're seeing, and that, whatever your experience is what's meant to happen. This is supposed to just be an opening today, and just allow yourself to play. It really is a place of art and creativity, especially when we go into the other realm, because I will see things, but you're going to want to paint that landscape, and you're going to want to see things. And that's where you get to trust that, like, oh, Marisa said one animal. Well, I've got 5. And like my zebra has rainbow stripes, like whatever it is, like there's my unicorn. Like whatever comes up in your mind's eye, give yourself permission to play, because healing work is serious work, but it's also like beautiful, creative work, I think. So I just wanted to give you that little plug beforehand to just enjoy the process, whatever happens for you. So I'll go ahead and I'll have you all, except for maybe, May, if you can just, I'm going to do a little sound check with the music. If you can let me share my screen, and then I should be able to.
Okay.
And if everyone else, you can turn your,
I was going to ask if we could turn our cameras on.
yeah, turn your cameras off. My eyes are pretty much closed the whole time, so you can turn your cameras off, and I think I can share now. So I will share my audio here. Okay, and then I will get my Spotify. And let me know if that sounds okay, if the music needs to go higher or lower. Can you tell? Hear anything? It's okay.
Yeah, it sounds clear coming through on this side.
Okay.
Awesome. Judy says it sounds good.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah. All right. So actually, I'm going to shut my light. May I let you get settled? All right. So just getting yourself settled down. Really big, deep breath into your heart center, place right in the center of your chest. Exhale again, tension spread. I want you to imagine all of these beautiful strands of light coming up from here. Gently wrapping themselves around your legs and feet, belly, arms. Cultivating this beautiful light as you just continue to exhale, surrender. And right in the center of your chest is our heart center, our portal to the other realm that lives deep within us. You're going to take a really big, deep breath into that space. And as you exhale, imagine cracking that heart center open, illuminating this beautiful light. Notice the color of your light today. might be vibrant, white, emerald green. It might be a storm that is to galaxy. Every exhale breath, continue to expand that way. Light begins to encompass your entire body. Begins to encompass the entire space around you, feeling your movement. And expanding forward. All you can feel and see is yourself floating in this light. This beautiful ethereal veil appears before you. This veil to the other. You take your hands, sliding it. Find yourself stepping out into a clearing in the forest. Your feet hit the cool earth. Maybe you even crouch down, your hands in the soil. Looking up around you, the landscape begins to appear. Giant ancient trees. Beautiful flowers. Maybe your grass is soft. Maybe all you see is wind. Sun shining down or the moon. Maybe you have both. The most safe and sacred space look and feel like to you. And if you transport it into the desert or the ocean, trust whatever happens for you. Just bring the forest there. Forest is a place for us to connect with Great Mother. Notice how it feels in the space in the body. And then I want you to call in a helping spirit animal to meet you. And maybe this is an animal you've worked with before, you've been connected to. Maybe this animal will surprise you. They make their way from above or below. Guiding on this journey. Most highest. They begin to lead you deeper into the forest. And as you begin to walk, you notice the trees and vegetation all get a little more sparse and lighter, almost younger. You come across this beautiful labyrinth, this spiral, still rose quartz stone. It's beautiful all. Your helping spirit asks you to close your eyes, to feel and think deeply about your most highest self, the divinity that you are. Part of you that is free from beliefs and agreements. It came and was birthed into this world without knowledge, without domestication, without the ability to talk. Pure life force. Life force that maybe chose to come back at a time to create or to be or to do something in this new part of you that is free, part of you that loves, creates, feels. There's also a part of you that is not free from the human experience, but holds space with strength, has the ability to not take things unapologetically themselves. Conjure them up inside of you as an energy. Feel them. A deep breath in, exhale, and send them out right in the center of that labyrinth. See them standing there. They look like you, an older version, just a light, spirit. Thinking what they might be wearing, what color they are. Suddenly, you notice there are a bunch of stones at your feet. And your helping spirit animal says, each of these stones represent beliefs and agreements that are blocking you from connecting to your most divine self. You need to pick up 3 stones. 3 stones that might represent these beliefs and agreements that are on top of you. Beliefs and agreements that are to change and change. If you find you have something really heavy that you can't possibly imagine carrying through this labyrinth, ask your animal to help you. This is a ritual of courage. It's a ritual of acknowledging these parts of self. And asking ourselves if we're ready to begin the journey to let them go. If we could only drop a stone and the belief would go away, how easy it would be. The act of walking through the labyrinth and dropping a stone is letting the universe know that you're ready to connect to your higher self. So make your way through the labyrinth, sitting with these beliefs and asking them to. If you are, you can drop them. If you find you get to the center of the labyrinth and get to your most highest self, and you have not been able to let go of the stone, you can turn it over to them. They can help you carry it. Let's take a few moments. you get to the center, just lay hands over yourself. Allow yourself to be held. If you need something to support yourself on this journey moving forward, you can ask. Then we're going to breathe this person right back into the center. 1, 2, 3. Making our way up the labyrinth with our helping spirit. Walking back to the clearing where we began. Thank our helping spirit animal taking us on this journey. Thank our hearts and our portal for bringing us to this point. Knowing at any time, with the close of your eyes, you can return to this place. So you can relax deeply. Exhale, letting go. Slowly coming back into your body, back into the space. Opening the eyes when you're ready. And then you can go ahead and come into your journal, and we'll take about, I want to leave a good amount of time for sharing. So we'll take about 3 minutes to just write down anything that came up for you. Anything in your vision you'd like to remember. And you can turn your cameras on too, just so I know you're awake. You're back. Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Betty. All right. So I'd love to take some time just for some sharing. And I do have this book. It's my favorite book called Animal Spirit Guides by Stephen Farmer. He's the most magical animal intuitive. And so if you had an animal that came through that you would like to know the meaning of, I will read it for you. And you don't have to share if you don't want, but I'll just leave the circle open. And yeah, do you want to share? You can.
I can share. So I have, I've never seen a black bear before, but that's what came for me was a black bear. So I would love to know the significance
Yeah.
of a black bear. He was enormous.
No, I love that. Okay. So when bear shows up, it means set clear boundaries and don't compromise, even if pressured. Ask for what you want, whether or not you feel you'll get it. Get going on that creative project you have in mind. Take some time out from your usual routines to spend some time in solitude. You may be in need of physical or emotional healing. To find answers to your questions, go inside rather than reading or consulting others. If black bear, it is an important time for meditation and introspection. Balance your activities with periods of rest and don't forget to play.
Just saying. Wow. Yeah, the other thing that came up was the laws that I agreed to accept. And this has come up before in like past life work that I've done before, but of unworthiness, selfishness, and vows of poverty. You know, which the selfishness and the vows of poverty for me make a whole lot of sense. That they would go together. You know, yeah. Being told that you're too selfish and that you can't have what you need, and then taking a vow of poverty to make sure that that I stay small and don't allow others, or don't allow myself to receive. So yeah, that was a powerful process.
So there's some big agreements. Those are the heavy ones.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense.
It's funny how that happens when we go inside.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and share. The animal that came through was a wolf. They were like a gray, like a salt and pepper coat, and like white chest. And the thing is that there was an indigenous man next to him, or they, tall in stature, and he had like one feather. And I don't know if they were needing to follow me through the labyrinth, but they stayed out in the field while I went into the labyrinth. So like it felt like they were guarding or like protecting where I can explore this space, and I can really like, yeah, it was pretty cool. That's the imagery I got.
Love it.
A wolf, yeah, that's what I got.
Whoa, I love it. Okay. Well, first, I just want to say that I love that you received also another, like, seeing guide in physical form. Getting to know that guide will be really fun for you if you continue to journey inside to see how that guide might speak to you, or what medicine they have, or what the purpose is. It sounds like protection, like you said, like witnessing, holding space, being on the outside, but it will be interesting to see what more comes of that relationship if you decide to explore it.
Yeah.
It's really cool. The wolf, if wolf shows up, it means characteristics and behaviors that no longer serve your spiritual purpose are being culled from your consciousness. Valuable insights, ideas, and new teachings are coming your way, so pay close attention. It's important to maintain your self-esteem and integrity. Deeply trust your inner knowing, even when you feel misunderstood or misaligned. And the thing with the wolf, it's all about physical and spiritual psychic protection. So they're a wonderful animal to call on and to have as a guide. And yeah, I love that you had a wolf.
Thank you. Thank you. I wouldn't say surprised, but just the imagery of even a man, because I tend to lean towards feminine guidance. So it's very unusual to have a man in my vision.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting, because in my like macro sense of thinking about us as human beings, I feel like we are all, like, I see everyone spiritual, but we're given human form, or we're in human form, or we have the ability, like our human form, we can change, it's like when a guide shows up to me in a form, then I wonder, because there is masculine energy and feminine energy. And there is also something about the shaman and the native shaman. And there's a certain wisdom that we receive from that type of guide. So I have one that came to me, and he never talks. He only speaks to me through his eyes and a deck of cards that I have is called the Sacred Path. And that's how I connect. Otherwise, I don't ever see him. And so, yeah, I would say I love that, there's something there, because sometimes we might need that more. To me, there's no good or bad or difference in the spirit world of gender and what somebody might have to offer, which is so much different than the human world that we live, like the dream of the planet, right? We're doing so much unlearning and learning, and it's like, oh my gosh. So I don't know if any of that makes sense, but it's like, yeah, allowing yourself to see the guides from your heart space, and what medicine they have, and that there's something about that when the shaman comes, I feel like it's a very powerful guide, so.
Yeah, the rocks were really heavy.
And
it was challenging to attach the meaning for each rock. Yeah, so I have to write more about what that means, but they're really heavy, even if they were the size of my hand,
Mm,
really hard to pick up.
yeah. Yeah. That's like a beautiful reminder about these practices, is that sometimes we don't get all of the information in every channel that you know what I mean? But there's something to be said if the words didn't come, that they might be more deeper,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know. And sometimes, like, the things that we think we need to work on or shift or change or let go of, there's a deeper wounding underneath. And so just having the feeling, being able to feel in your body the heaviness, is very powerful. Gives us a lot to think about when we come out. One thing I like to say, though, is that I always tell people, if they feel called to, like, journey, like if they feel called to get really into writing or figuring something out, great, but it's also a practice of just allowing yourself to have the experience and then let it go and
Mhm.
see the way it comes up. When it comes to this type of spiritual practice, we have to leave a lot of room for the mystery.
Yeah.
Just leave some space and more will be revealed, you know.
Let it breathe.
Let it breathe. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
So I know that we're almost out of time.
Oh, sorry. I try to be right
No,
on.
that's okay. That's all right. I'll be quick. I was very distracted. I don't know if anyone had this experience, but it was hard to hear what you were saying.
Was
It
okay.
would get chopped up a little. So that was kind of distracting. But my mind, I think, was scattered to begin with. So it was really hard to focus. But what came in as far as in the field, my dog, Winnie, a beagle, she passed away like 10 years ago. So she kind of came in. And then a hawk was kind of flying next to her. Um, and it's interesting because I don't know if you've seen this series, his Dark Materials.
I just started reading book 1. I'm on like page 10.
Well, there's a series on HBO. So read the books first, because I didn't read the books, and now that I've already seen the series, I try to get into the book, but it's kind of like with watching a movie. You already know how it ends, so you can't watch it ever again. Yeah. So my mind kind of floated to that, because they talk about daemons, people have like their own animals as like their soul kind of thing. So my mind kind of fluttered to that when I saw Winnie and the Hawk. And then I actually wrote a book called Token of Choice, which talks about guides and just the different things that happen to someone when like certain situations and stuff. So the guide that is in the book, and one of the main characters is a Native American chief. So he kind of peeked in. So like I said, my mind was kind of like all over the place. But I'm interested to know about the beagle and the hawk, kind of, if they're connected.
And let's see. I don't have beagle, but I do have dog. Are we all okay to go a little bit over together? Okay. Dog, keep your faith strong no matter what's going on in your life. Remain determined and resolute, even if you face negativity or disappointment. Show your love and appreciation in creative ways. Call on dog when you've been working on a project and your resolve is beginning to fade, when you're feeling lonely, in need of companionship, or feel in need of immediate and strong protection. Call on dog when you're facing some difficulty or challenge and feel like giving up. So a little protector to help us keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And the hawk is really powerful, because the hawk is all about expanding ourselves from the micro to the macro and coming way out and expanding our lens. Okay. If Hawk shows up, it means you're caught up in too many details. So step back so you can see the greater perspective on the situation. Spend time observing and studying the situation, and when it's time for action, make it quick and decisive. Pay attention to your surroundings as you're about to receive an important message. Stop trying to change others or the situation and work on accepting things as they are.
Piece of cake.
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm sorry. That's one of the things about Zoom, the sound sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
I get that. Yeah,
I
for
do
sure.
I do have a lot of meditations that are recorded very lovingly, and you can hear them. So I can tell you where to find those.
Yeah.
But thank you, everyone. It's so beautiful. I know we're 4 minutes over, but thank you for just being here. And I'm so glad we got to share the space together. And I hope you took away something that will be supportive to your recovery, your creativity, your humanness, whatever it might be.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah,
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
And I'll be sure to, if you can share the links to your other meditations
Yeah.
in the community, or I can get that from you, that would be amazing.
Yes, I'll send you. My website has all my offerings. And then also, if you want to get started with things, there's a resource page. So if you want to like get some cards or some books, or like this book, I have links to things that I think are good, just little starts. And yeah, you can find all the offerings on there if anything can support you. So I try to have stuff from like $4.99 up to coaching, working together. So there's something for everyone. And there's a free self-love series on the 4 agreements. It's a 4-hour, 4-part series on how each agreement leads to more self-love. And it's at your own pace and it's free. So that's on there too.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you so much. And
Thank you, Marisa.
Thank you for coming. Yes.
Thanks.
And
Thanks, May, for having this.
Absolutely. It feels like divine timing, and it's pretty amazing, everything that came through for all of us today. So I appreciate everyone's time and connection on this wonderful Sunday.
Yeah.
Everyone have a great week, and we'll be in touch.
You as well. Thanks
Yeah.
again.
Take
Bye,
care.
Bye,
everybody.
Marissa.
Thank you.